Echo of humanity. The Galaxian war fleet emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of metallic locusts, their crystalline ships refracting starlight across the void. Admiral Kextol stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Eternal Dawn, his four eyes fixed on the holographic display of humanity's last stronghold, the Arcturus Defense Station. 3 years had passed since Earth's mysterious disappearance from the galactic stage. Their entire fleet, thousands of ships strong, had vanished in a single day. The remaining human colonies fell one by one to the Galaxian advance, until only Arcturus remained. This would be the final victory, the end of humanity's resistance. Maximum magnification on the station, Kextol ordered, his secondary hearts beating in anticipation. The station grew in the display, a massive construct of titanium and carbon fiber composites. But something was wrong. The station showed no signs of activity, no defense screens, no weapon systems charging. "My lord," his sensor officer called out, mandibles clicking in confusion. "We're detecting unusual quantum fluctuations throughout the sector." Kextol's spine ridges stiffened. In 15 years of war against the humans, he'd learned to fear their capacity for surprise. Full scan. "I want to know what we're dealing with." The space around Arcturus began to ripple, like heat waves rising from desert sand. At first, Kextol thought it was a visual distortion in the display. Then reality itself seemed to tear open. Ships began emerging from the quantum distortions. Not dozens, not hundreds, but thousands. The lost Earth fleet, transformed. Their hulls were covered in patterns that seemed to shift and move, defying the eye's attempt to focus on them. They had waited here, in some impossible space between spaces, for 3 years. "Impossible," Kextol whispered, all four eyes widening. They couldn't have. But they had. The humans had achieved what the Galaxian Science Council had deemed impossible: quantum shift technology on a massive scale. The ability to exist in a state between realities, watching, waiting, preparing. "Multiple energy signatures detected," the sensor officer shouted. "They're powering weapons." The first salvo from the human fleet struck before Kextol could give the order to raise shields. Beams of concentrated quantum energy, weapons that shouldn't exist, tore through his frontline ships like they were made of paper. The crystalline hulls of 3 Galaxian dreadnoughts shattered simultaneously, their crews having no time to even realize what had happened. "Battle formations," Kextol roared, his training taking over despite his shock. "All ships, execute Pattern 7. Get those shields up." But the human fleet moved with impossible coordination. 3 years in quantum space had changed them. Their ships phased in and out of reality, making targeting impossible. Each time they solidified, their weapons struck with devastating precision. A transmission cut through all Galaxian frequencies, a human voice, calm and clear. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. You believed us broken. You thought us defeated. You were wrong. We did not retreat. We evolved." Kextol watched in horror as his fleet, the pride of the Galaxian Empire, began to crumble. The humans had used their apparent defeat to mask the greatest military advancement in galactic history. They hadn't been hiding. They had been transcending. "My lord," his second-in-command spoke softly, "we must retreat. We cannot win this battle." Pride warred with survival instinct in Kextol's mind. The Galaxian Empire had never retreated, never shown weakness. But as he watched another wave of his ships torn apart by weapons that defied physical laws, he knew this was no longer a battle. It was a revolution in warfare itself. "All ships," he commanded, his voice heavy with the weight of history. "Emergency jump. Get us out of here." As the remnants of his fleet prepared to flee, Kextol received one final transmission from Commander Chen. "Remember this day, Admiral. Remember what humanity can achieve when pushed to the brink. This is only the beginning." The surviving Galaxian ships vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind the wreckage of their fallen comrades. The quantum-shifted human fleet hung in space like ghosts, their impossible hulls still flickering between states of reality. In his quarters later, Kextel drafted his report to the Imperial Council. How could he explain that the humans hadn't been defeated at all? That their disappearance had been part of a strategy so bold, so impossible, that no one had even considered it. As he wrote, he knew one thing with certainty. The war had not ended today. It had transformed into something entirely new. And for the first time in centuries, the Galaxian Empire faced an enemy that didn't just match their technological prowess, but had surpassed it entirely. The Ghost Fleet rises. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the EDF Prometheus, watching the retreating signatures of the Galaxian fleet vanish into hyperspace. 3 years of waiting in quantum space had changed her, changed all of them. Time moved differently in the shift realm, stretching and compressing like a rubber band. What felt like decades of preparation to her crew had been just 3 years in normal space. "Status report," she called out, turning to face her bridge crew. The officers stationed at their posts looked as otherworldly as their ship now, their forms seeming to shimmer slightly, a side effect of prolonged quantum exposure. "All ships reporting in, Commander," Lieutenant Marcus Wong responded, his hands dancing over the quantum interface controls. "Minimal casualties. The Galaxians never knew what hit them." Sarah nodded, remembering the day Earth's leadership had proposed Project Echo. It had seemed impossible then, shifting the entire human fleet into a quantum state, existing between realities while they developed technology that would change the course of the war. The risks had been enormous. No one knew if humans could survive prolonged exposure to quantum space. "Send word to all fleet commanders," she ordered. "Begin Phase 2 of the Echo Protocol." The quantum comm network lit up, connecting ships that existed partially out of phase with normal spacetime. It was their greatest advantage. The Galaxians couldn't intercept or even detect their communications. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the architect of Project Echo, approached the command platform. Even after all this time, Sarah found it slightly unsettling how the scientist's form seemed to blur at the edges, like a photograph slightly out of focus. "The quantum shift drives are performing beyond expectations," Elena reported, excitement clear in her voice. "The Galaxians' crystalline technology made them particularly vulnerable to our phase-locked weapons. They never imagined we could weaponize quantum uncertainty itself." Sarah remembered the early days of the project, when Elena had first theorized that consciousness could survive in quantum space. The scientist had volunteered herself as the first test subject, stepping into the quantum chamber with nothing but determination and a belief in human potential. "What's the status of the crew?" Sarah asked, concerned about the long-term effects they'd all been warned about. Elena's expression darkened slightly. "The quantum degradation is progressing as expected. We have maybe 6 months of operational time before the effects become irreversible. After that..." She didn't need to finish. They all knew the cost when they volunteered. Prolonged existence in quantum space was changing them at the molecular level. They were becoming something no longer entirely human. "Send the signal to the resistance cells on the occupied colonies," Sarah commanded. It's time they knew Earth wasn't destroyed, that we're coming for them. As her orders were carried out, Sarah thought about the moment that had led to all this. The Galaxian Empire had been unstoppable, their crystalline ships and energy weapons decimating human forces. Earth's scientists had realized they couldn't win with conventional technology. They needed to change the rules of physics itself. "Commander," Marcus called out, his voice urgent. "We're detecting multiple Galaxian battle groups converging on human colonies in the Orion sector. They're attacking civilian targets." Sarah's jaw tightened. The Galaxians were retaliating the only way they knew how, with brutality. "Plot intercept courses. All ships prepare for quantum jump." The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency, their movements precise despite their slightly blurred forms. The quantum shift drive hummed to life, the sound somehow existing both everywhere and nowhere at once. "Dr. Rodriguez," Sarah said quietly. "How long until the prototype is ready?" Delina's eyes gleamed with something that wasn't quite human anymore. "The quantum amplification matrix is stable. If you're asking whether we can shift an entire planet out of phase, theoretically, yes, but the power requirements would be astronomical." Sarah nodded. It had always been the ultimate goal of Project Echo, not just to save Earth's fleet, but to protect Earth itself, to make humanity's homeworld as untouchable as their ships have become. "Begin the calculations. If the Galaxians want to target our worlds, we'll show them what it means to face an enemy they can't even touch." The Prometheus led the fleet into quantum space, their forms shifting between realities. They had sacrificed their humanity to save humanity itself, and as they emerged near the embattled colonies, their quantum weapons ready, Sarah knew it had been worth it. The war had entered a new phase. The Galaxians were about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons. It was their willingness to sacrifice everything to protect their own. Titans clash. The Orion sector blazed with warfare, unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Quantum-shifted human vessels phased in and out of reality around the crystalline forms of Galaxian warships, their battles defying the conventional laws of physics. The sky above the human colonies lit up with impossible energies as two technological titans clashed. Admiral Kextal had returned with reinforcements, the entire 7th Imperial Fleet, nearly 10,000 ships strong. The Galaxian Empire had never deployed such force in its entire history. Their crystalline vessels formed intricate geometric patterns in space, their formation designed to create overlapping fields of fire that would catch even phase-shifting ships. Multiple quantum signatures detected, Kextal's sensor officer reported. "The human fleet is everywhere and nowhere, sir." The Admiral's spine ridges bristled. In the weeks since their first encounter with the transformed human fleet, Galaxian scientists had worked frantically to develop countermeasures. Their ships now carried experimental quantum detection arrays, but tracking an enemy that existed in multiple states of reality simultaneously proved nearly impossible. Aboard the Prometheus, Commander Sarah Chen watched the massive Galaxian formation through quantum-enhanced sensors. Her crew's forms had deteriorated further, their bodies now seeming to trail traces of themselves through time and space. "They've adapted faster than expected," Dr. Rodriguez noted, her own form flickering between moments. "Their crystal matrix technology is attempting to map quantum states." Sarah nodded grimly. "Then we show them what Project Echo can really do. All ships, execute Protocol Omega." The human fleet began to move in ways that shouldn't have been possible. Ships split into quantum duplicates, existing in multiple positions simultaneously. When Galaxian weapons fire struck one location, the ships would collapse into reality at another. It was like fighting ghosts. Ghosts armed with weapons that could tear through advanced alien armor like paper. "Impossible." Kextal snarled as another squadron of his ships shattered under quantum-phased fire. "No species can sustain that level of quantum manipulation. The energy requirements alone." As if in answer to his words, a new signal appeared on his sensors. The Prometheus was changing, its quantum state reaching unprecedented levels of fluctuation. Dr. Rodriguez stood at her station on the Prometheus, her hands dancing over controls that operated in 5 dimensions simultaneously. "Quantum amplification matrix at maximum. We can hold this state for exactly 60 seconds. Sarah's voice carried across all frequencies, heard by human and Galaxian alike. "You wanted to see the true power of humanity. Watch carefully." The Prometheus seemed to exist everywhere at once, hundreds of quantum duplicates overlapping in space-time. When it fired, its weapons struck from every possible angle simultaneously. 30 Galaxian capital ships died in the first second, 50 more in the next. But the cost was horrific. On the Prometheus's bridge, crew members began to scream as their quantum-shifted forms started to break down. Reality itself couldn't handle the strain of what they were attempting. 40 seconds, Dr. Rodriguez announced, her own form beginning to dissolve at the edges. quantum cohesion failing. Kextall watched in horror as his fleet was systematically demolished by what appeared to be a single human vessel existing in hundreds of places at once. His tactical display couldn't even process what it was seeing. "All ships, emergency retreat," he ordered. "Get us out of." The order came too late. The Prometheus's quantum attack reached his flagship, striking it from angles that shouldn't have existed. The crystalline vessel began to fracture, its sophisticated technology useless against weapons that ignored the conventional laws of physics. 10 seconds, Rodriguez called out, blood trickling from her nose as reality strained around them. "Commander, we won't survive another attack like this." Sarah watched as the remaining Shalaxian ships fled in panic, leaving behind a graveyard of crystalline fragments. "Stand down quantum amplification. All ships, return to standard shift state." As the Prometheus stabilized, the crew collapsed at their stations. Medical teams rushed to treat the victims of quantum degradation. They had won a decisive victory, but the cost had been enormous. Dr. Rodriguez's readings confirmed their worst fears. "The quantum degradation has accelerated. We have weeks now, not months, before the changes become permanent." Sarah looked at her crew, their forms now permanently blurred, existing partially out of phase with normal spacetime. They had sacrificed their very humanity to save humanity itself. The ultimate irony of Project Echo. "Send word to Earth," she ordered. Tell them it's time to proceed with the final phase. We've proven the technology works. Now we need to use it to end this war before it destroys us all." As the quantum comm network carried her message across the void, Sarah wondered if they had gone too far. In their desperation to survive, had they become something else entirely? The quantum-shifted fleet hung in space like a ghost armada, their crews no longer fully human, their technology defying the laws of reality itself. The war had reached a turning point, but victory might cost them more than anyone had imagined. The price of victory. In the medical bay of the Prometheus, Dr. Elena Rodriguez studied her reflection in a quantum-stabilized mirror. Her form flickered like a corrupted hologram, leaving traces of movement hanging in the air seconds after she moved. The crew called it quantum ghosting, just one of the many prices they'd paid for their victory. "The latest test results are conclusive," she told Commander Chen, who stood nearby, her own form similarly distorted. "The quantum degradation has reached cellular level. We're no longer aging normally. We're existing in multiple temporal states simultaneously." Sarah watched as a medical technician passed his hand through what appeared to be solid equipment, his quantum-shifted form allowing him to phase through normal matter. What had started as their greatest weapon had become something far more profound. An irreversible transformation of human physiology. "How many?" Sarah asked quietly. 87% of the fleet's personnel show advanced quantum integration," Elena replied. "We're not just using the technology anymore, Sarah. We're becoming it." On the bridge, Lieutenant Wong monitored reports from across human space. The Shalaxian Empire was in chaos following their devastating defeat. Their seemingly invincible crystalline fleets now refused to engage human ships, retreating at the first sign of quantum signatures. But the political upheaval went deeper. The Shalaxian Science Council had declared Admiral Kextall's reports impossible, claiming that no species could achieve such mastery over quantum mechanics. The Imperial Military Command was fracturing, with younger officers calling for peace negotiations while the old guard demanded even more aggressive action. "Commander," Wong called out as Sarah entered the bridge, "we're detecting unusual activity in Shalaxian space. They're colony worlds. They're evacuating them." Sarah studied the tactical display, her quantum-enhanced perception, allowing her to process information at unprecedented speeds. The Shalaxians were pulling back, consolidating their forces around their core worlds. They were afraid. "They think we'll do to their planets what we did to our ships," she realized. "They think we'll shift entire worlds out of phase." The irony wasn't lost on her. Project Echo's final phase had indeed involved planetary quantum shifting, but not as a weapon. They had something far more ambitious in mind. In her private quarters, Sarah reviewed messages from Earth's quantum-shifted research facilities. The scientists who had remained planetside were reporting similar physiological changes among their staff. The quantum effect was spreading, transforming not just the military, but all of humanity who came in contact with the technology. "Play personal log," she commanded, her voice triggering quantum-encrypted systems. Day 847 of Project Echo deployment. Her image appeared in the air, but it was different from her reflection. The log showed her as she had been before the quantum shifting. Solid, unchanging, human. The contrast with her current state was stark. "We knew the risks when we volunteered," she spoke to the log. "But I don't think any of us understood what it really meant to transcend normal spacetime. The crew were changing in ways we never imagined. Some can see possible futures, others can communicate across quantum states without technology. We're becoming something new, something that isn't quite human anymore. And the strange thing is, I'm not sure if that's a bad thing." The ship's quantum alert system pulsed, pulling her attention back to the present. A priority message from Earth Command, transmitted through the quantum comm network. Final phase authorized. Project Echo to commence planetary implementation within 48 hours. All quantum-shifted fleet elements to converge on Earth. The future begins now. Sarah closed her eyes, feeling the quantum energy flowing through her transformed body. They had started this project to save humanity from the Galaxian Empire. Instead, they had triggered the next step in human evolution. Their bodies might be falling apart in conventional terms, but they were also becoming something greater, beings that existed across multiple realities, untethered from the normal laws of physics. "All hands," she announced shipwide, her voice carrying across quantum states. "Set course for Earth. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity is truly becoming." As the quantum-shifted fleet prepared for their return home, Sarah wondered how their transformed state would affect Earth's population. The quantum technology couldn't be contained. It spread like a virus, changing everything it touched. They weren't just bringing a new weapon home, they were bringing evolution itself. The Galaxians had wanted to conquer humanity. Instead, they had forced humanity to transcend its own limitations. The war wasn't going to end with a victory or defeat in conventional terms. It was going to end with the birth of a new form of life itself. Tomorrow's dawn. The quantum-shifted fleet emerged above Earth like a constellation of ghostly stars, their forms rippling through multiple realities simultaneously. To the untrained eye, it would have looked like a mirage. Thousands of ships existing in a state of quantum flux, their hulls trailing echoes through space-time. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the Prometheus's bridge, watching her homeworld through quantum-enhanced senses. Earth pulsed with possibility, each potential future visible to her transformed perception. In one reality, she could see the planet as it was. In another, she saw what it would become. "All ships in position," Lieutenant Wang reported, his form now permanently quantum-shifted, leaving traces of movement across multiple moments in time. "The planetary quantum array is ready." Dr. Rodriguez's voice came through the quantum comm. Her consciousness spread across multiple ships as she coordinated the final phase of Project Echo. "The calculations are complete, Commander. We can proceed with the planetary shift." But before they could begin, the sensors pulsed with urgent data. "Multiple hyperspace signatures detected," Wang announced. "The Galaxians, they brought everything." The space around Earth erupted with crystalline ships, the entire Galaxian Imperial fleet. At their center, aboard a massive flagship that dwarfed all others, stood not Admiral Kextal, but Empress Vexera herself. The supreme ruler of the Galaxian Empire had come to witness humanity's last stand. "This is Empress Vexera of the Galaxian Empire." Her transmission cut across all frequencies, conventional and quantum. "We have seen what your quantum technology can do. We know you plan to shift your world out of phase with reality. We cannot allow this. The barriers between dimensions must not be breached. Sarah's response was calm, her voice carrying the weight of someone who had seen beyond normal reality. You misunderstand, Empress. We're not shifting Earth to hide it. We're shifting it to show you something. Begin the sequence. The quantum-shifted fleet moved into formation around Earth, their energy matrices linking together in impossible patterns. Dr. Rodriguez's voice echoed across the quantum comm. Planetary quantum field activating. Dimensional barriers thinning. The Galaxian fleet held position, their weapons armed but not firing. They watched in fascinated horror as Earth itself began to shimmer, its reality state becoming fluid. By the crystal throne, Empress Vexera whispered, "What are you doing?" The answer came not in words, but in transformation. As Earth's quantum state shifted, something extraordinary happened. The planet didn't vanish or phase out of reality. Instead, it began to resonate across multiple dimensions simultaneously, and with it, every human on the surface began to change. This was never about winning the war, Sarah explained, her voice reaching across both normal and quantum space. Project Echo wasn't a weapon. It was the next step in human evolution. We're not hiding from reality. We're expanding it. The quantum field spread from Earth, touching every human colony, every outpost. Humanity wasn't running from the Galaxian Empire. They were transcending the very limits of existence that made conventional warfare possible. You force us to choose, Empress Vexera declared. Either we destroy you now, or we watch you become something that could dominate the galaxy. No, Sarah responded. We offer you a third choice. Join us. The quantum field pulsed, and data began flowing to the Galaxian fleet, the complete scientific records of Project Echo. Your crystalline technology, Sarah continued, it's already partially quantum reactive. Your species could make this transition too, and do it more safely than we did. We're offering you evolution, not extinction. On the Galaxian flagship, Empress Vexera studied the data with all four eyes wide. The crystalline computing cores of her ships were already beginning to resonate with the quantum field, showing possibilities she had never imagined. You could have used this as a weapon, she realized. Could have shifted our worlds out of phase, left us helpless. We could have, Sarah agreed. But humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons. It's our ability to imagine a future beyond conflict. We're offering you partnership in that future. The quantum field stabilized around Earth, its effects rippling through human space. Humanity had become something new. Beings that existed across multiple realities, their consciousness expanded beyond normal space-time. They were no longer just humans. They were quantum entities, capable of seeing and affecting multiple possible futures simultaneously. The Galaxian fleet hung in space, their crystalline ships glittering with newfound potential. Empress Vexera faced a choice that would define her species' future. Fight against evolution itself, or embrace a transformation that could lift both their civilizations to heights previously unimaginable. Lower weapons, she commanded finally. Open communications channels. It seems we have much to discuss about tomorrow. As the two fleets began their historic first peaceful interaction, Sarah looked down at Earth, seeing all its possible futures overlaid at once. They had started with a desperate plan to save humanity through technology. They had ended by offering the galaxy a path to transcendence. The war was over. The age of quantum civilization had begun. And in the space between realities, humanity had found not just survival, but a destiny greater than anyone had imagined.